for example, statistics do, is simply because they are just not user-friendly as SPSS. And that's not the best way to use STATA. So what I'm going to do is the first thing just to show to you how to open the data in STATA. And then what I'm going to do is to use the program and to show to you how to save your time. Okay, so to open the data, you need to click File and choose Import and Excel Spreadsheet. And then go to the place where you keep your data. So for example, I keep it there. That's STATA exercise. Click Open. So once again, you do need to check the first button to include variable name in the first row. That looks quite similar to SPSS. And if you click OK, first of all, the command that you use to perform that analysis is put in that box straight away. You can copy and paste it and can use that later. So for example, if you open a do file editor, look at over there, the little button, there's a do file editor. If you click that open, and you can copy and paste this, everything that you do will show up in this window. And you can, let me go back to, so that's the command that you can use later in future. And every time, so if you're, so clear all will get rid of everything. And every time, if you want to open the file, so the variables are over there. So this is where you can see your variable, and this window is where you can see the result. And here is where you can submit the command. So here you can either highlight everything that you need to submit, click this little do button. That will do exactly the same thing. So later I'm going to show you once again what's the benefit of doing that. But I'm showing you the different windows that you can open. So this window, by clicking this do file editor, you can open a file. It's a text file that you can save all the command lines. And later you can do some minor changes and run it again. That saves your time. It's not like in Excel or in SPSS. Every time you have to click those buttons again. In STATA, you do not have to do that. Okay, that's the first thing. Second, you also can see the data. So this is a data editor. If you click this, that will show you all the data in this file. So that's index, GDP, and T, okay? And that's a detailed view of all those variables, including this window. So this is the first step that I'm going to do. And let me close this. I'm not going to save it. What I'm going to do is to open the file that I saved. So in front of you, that's in SPSS, that's a STATA command file. What you can do is, so for example, here, you can highlight these two lines. Anything that is kind of in green, that's a note, is going to be ignored by the program. So that's not a command. Anything in blue, that's a built-in command. That's something that the software understands. So for example, if you do not know what is this histogram means, you can type help. So this is the demand here. So there's a histogram, and you can type help histogram. It will open a window to show to you everything that you need to know about it. You can also click this complete PDF menu. So this is a snapshot. The PDF file is available online. If you click this link, it will open the file to show you how to use this command. Okay, so anything in blue, you can tap help, anything. So for example, help regress. So that's the command to run a regression model. It shows to you everything that you need to know about this command. Okay, so this is how to get help. And what are we going to do with this command? So over there, that's the command to generate a histogram of index. And that's a frequency. We also want to have a normal curve imposed. And we also want to have legend show. So highlight this two lines. Just the first one is fine, because the second line, the first one, question B, is in blue, in green, which means it's going to be ignored. That's just a note. If you click this little button, do button, it will submit the command to STATA, and it'll give you this histogram that looks almost the same as the one that we generated by using SPSS. But you can imagine in SPSS, if you need to generate a histogram for 10 variables, you have to do it one at a time for 10 times. In STATA, over there, all you need to do, so for example, if I want to generate a histogram of T, I will copy and paste there. All I need to do is to change this one because that's the variable name, that's T. Okay, so highlight it and submit it. That's your histogram for T. This is why I said, okay, STATA is one step up. If you understand how to program, that make your life much easier. If learning programming takes more time, this is just not your thing. Ignore it. SPSS is your software. This is entirely personal preference thing. Just like beef is not for everybody. Skiing is not for everybody. Okay, so you choose the one that you feel most comfort with. Okay, so this is the histogram. Same thing's true. So for example, if you want to generate a scatter plot, 2A is the command. You tell the software, I need a scatter plot for which variables, index and GEP. So that's it. Highlight it, click it. That will give you the histogram right there. Copy and paste it in your report. You got it. Descript statistics. The command is summarize. Which variable, index, GDP. Click do. Here you are, that's in that window. And how about a regression model requesting, we need to have this, that's question D. We run a regression model and we want to have a VIF. We also need to perform a DW test, that's for time series analysis. So this is why we need to set a time series variable. So you can check the user manual for detail. But, oh, right, I didn't generate T2 yet. So let's generate T2. You have to do this step by step. And then run a regression model. So that gives you the regression output and also give you, so for example, those are the VIFs, and that is the DW test. Those are identical with the ones in SPSS. However, the nice thing about this is you can stop at any time. And next time when you need to you pick up from what you left before, all you need to do is just to open this file and you can highlight the ones that you want to run selectively, or you run the whole thing and that gives you everything that you have done before and you can carry on from that point. It significantly saves your time. And if you need to, so for example, just change a variable. So for example, if you want to generate a variable like this or generate a large number of variables, this is much better, much more efficient compared with the one that you can do in SPSS. In SPSS, you have to do it one at a time. And every time you need to repeat or generate the result that you generated before, you have to repeat it. But in STATA, if you have this program saved, you know what you're doing. All you need to do is just to select the ones that you want to run and just click this little do button. So for example, I have all of this, right? Okay, so I can select them and clear them. So there's nothing over there. And that's what I open when I open that STATA. And I did something before. This is what I saved in front of you. That's the program. And I can just sort, for example, click do. It generates all the diagram that I need to generate and run all the analysis question all the way, every single one of them. That's it. So I'm not going to take the time to explain those commands to you because I just don't think this is useful for the majority of us. As I mentioned at the beginning of this workshop, the vast majority of you will find SPSS is the best software to use. That's the best way of using your time. And if you're interested in programming and you want to save your time in terms of trying out different type of models and performing different type of tests, STATA is the one to go with. But that's not compulsory. It's not required in this course. So I will leave it to you to choose. And for STATA, if you choose to use STATA, inevitably you will have to read those help documents as I've shown to you. So if you read the help document, you will understand what is the meaning of those commands are, and you can take it to the next level. Okay, next question. Can you export the data from STATA after you have created lots of variables and then import this into SPS to run analysis? Certainly. So if we go back to this window, notice that we have so many variables included over there. See, those are the dummy variables we included over there already. And you can click this data editor and have a look that those are all the variables. And you can use file and you can choose export. So you can choose export to Excel file and then later open it in SPSS. So that's very straightforward. They are 100% compatible, no problem at all. Okay, so that's STATA. Do we have any questions about STATA? Okay, excellent. So
just a quick one. Would you recommend just sticking to one of the to one software, or it very much depends on your personal circumstances? Yeah.
Okay, that's a good question. So if you have, I mean, if you just want to use one software for everything, SPSS is the one that on the whole is the best for most of the people. However, if you really want to sort of, you want to have some fun after this and you really want to be efficient, and maybe down the road, you can foresee that you're going to do some quantitative analysis on your own, not just for this coursework, then it works well to learn how to use 3 of them, Excel, SPSS, and particular STATA, and use them for the things that they are best at. So for example, in terms of initial data cleaning, some data variable transformation, Excel probably is the easiest one. But in terms of advanced analysis, particularly the robustness standard deviations, you probably have to use STATA. And the commands are available from my PowerPoint slides.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, next question. I have, oh, that's not the first one. Go back, I have quite a few questions here. First one is, do we need to conduct all the techniques you mentioned in the session when answering exam questions? Not necessarily, only need the tools when you need them. Okay, it's not required to do all of them. Next one, can you export, oh, that one, I answered that question already. Please, may you explain when you use time series test? Oh, it's not time series test. You use time series test only when you have time series data, which is true for this case. But for our examination, it's not the case. So that's not required. When you have time series data, you perform time series test. When you do not have time series data, usually you don't. It's not even relevant. Okay, next one. Is it possible to run all possible regression when doing variable selection in STATA? Not straightforwardly. I don't think that's an option that I'm aware of. But you can try to read those menus. I will look it up as well. I didn't realize that we have that, but we do have stepwise, as shown on my PowerPoint slides, and as well as in this document as well. Next one. I have a question regarding the stepwise regression. Question H. We should use stepwise backward and forward selection. In the STATA help file, I found only backward selection, forward selection, stepwise forward, and stepwise backward. No pure backward regression. Which stepwise would we use that? Thank you. Oh, usually it doesn't make any difference. If it is marginal, then that's an actual indication that you probably have some problem with the quality or quantity of the data, or both. Generally speaking, stepwise forward, stepwise backwards, they are very marginally different. And use the default one will be fine. They will give you the same result. And next one, if you are completely clueless with the computers, it is as, yes, that's, I think so, right. And next one, is there a way for us to evaluate whether we have a complete enough test to approach the question? Well, we didn't introduce 100 tests in the lecture. So those are the basic ones that we call the standard diagnosis test, like the wet test, the reset test. You are supposed to do that. If your model can pass them, or the majority of them, then that's an indication that you have complete enough tests to approach the question. I do not expect you to go beyond the scope of the lecture, if that's what you're asking. Just doing that, just considering the test introduced in our lecture is sufficient. That's the maximum. Okay, And you do not have to do all of them. So for example, if your objective is not to prediction, there's no point of performing this predictive failure test. There's no point to prove, right? Okay, last question. Is there any rule of thumb for the limit to the number of higher order terms we should generally try, the third order term or the fourth order term, for example? That's a good question. Usually we stop at 2, because in some rare occasion, we may have some meaningful explanation. We will have a higher order terms. But usually, so when we have the second order term, we have some intuitive explanation. And for those higher ones, even if they're significant, the effect will be really, really small. So it's not worth that. Okay, we also have a hand raised there.
Yes, can I ask a quick question regarding the data for the assessment?
Yes.
It's just a general question. So it only includes residential house prices, right? Because it has bedrooms. That's the assumption. Okay. And second, one question talks about the national railway station. So if we think about a city like Cambridge, that does not mean that it's the London railway station, but the Cambridge one, right? It's the local railway station.
It's a local station. It's
okay, not the national.
Within the city, right?
Yeah. Okay,
so that's for that city specific. Right. Okay, so that's basically everything that I need to cover for the software. So let me stop sharing.